going to say that Huey's effort to save her reminds me a lot of Plato's allegory of the cave. Are you guys familiar with this story? So basically, the story goes that, imagine that like truth is represented by light, right? And the state of the world and how most people live is within a cave, right? And so the light they see are ultimately, well, in this story, it's the light comes from a fire within the cave, right? So it's not even a real source of truth. But the people are turning their backs to the fire. They don't know the fire is there, and they've always their whole life been fixated on this wall. And then the fire shines light onto the wall, and people behind them put these puppets up and cast shadows onto the wall, right? And so this is their understanding of a bird, democracy. Like every concept they know is really just a shadow, so it's not even a real version of the thing, right? They don't really understand the thing itself. Right. And it's only once they turn around do they realize that all of these things that they had conceptualized are really just a bunch of puppets. So they're not real. But once you break free of those chains, right, and you start to explore the cave and you head towards the light, first of all, you're blinded by it, right? Like it is shocking, right, to approach the truth, and it is uncomfortable. And then you get out there into the real world and you see real trees and real animals and real nature and maybe civilization, the whole thing. You see every concept, and it's like vastly different, and now it's covered in color and it's actually bright, and it's what it really is. And what Plato says is, what will happen if these people who escaped the cave go back to rescue others, right? Others who never left, others who never removed their eyes from the wall. They will come back and they'll tell the people who are fixated on the wall, and they'll say, oh, like you need to come with me. I will show you the truth. This is not the truth. He says that those people who you try to save will try to kill you, right? They will reject you. They will be fiercely angered with you for trying to question what they understand to be the truth, the comfortable truth.
I really like this. I never even heard this.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little story, and the fact that it's held true for thousands of years is just like amazing, right? Because we know this today, that if you question people's comfortable approach to life, where they say, oh, like this is how the world works, and this is my understanding that it's good, and you're just like, well, it's not good, and it's broken, and it's evil in this and that way, they will, they might become offended, they might call you crazy, they might think you're just this I don't know, whatever. And if you question their values, right, their comfortable values that they grew up with, they will get very offended, right? Anyone want to respond? And I'm saying, like, that's what came to mind with, the little girl basically saying, oh, I'm trying to get a pony, leave me alone, stop focusing on the negative, whatever. Like, she's rejecting Huey, even though he's the one trying to save her. And I think it's so powerful that, in the real world, people are trying to save groups, and they may get rejected by the group, and the group says, I'm fine, leave me alone. This is working for me. Let me chase my goal. Let me do my thing, my comfortable thing that I've been doing, that's within the box kind of thinking. And there's actually an R. Kelly episode. Has anyone watched the R. Kelly episode? A very similar thing happens.
Yes.
Well, the 14-year-old girl is like, oh, I didn't move. I actually wanted him to pee on me, right? And Huey's trying to save her, and even Tom Dubois is trying to save her, and she rejects their attempt to save. And I mean, like this goes to so many agents of change, whether it be change for the good or bad, like, whether it be a Christian trying to convert someone, or a Muslim maybe trying to convert someone, or a socialist trying to recruit people, like people who are trying to actually change for things, or even a conservative trying to change people who are actually passionate and have actually thought about a topic, and therefore probably have much better views on it than people who just take it complacently. Like they're met with a lot of fire in response to attempts to save them. Does anyone want to respond?
Okay.
I agree, and it's almost like, I don't know, it seems like the basic, like, prophets, like prophetic stories, they all seem to have that same issue, right? That resistance from the group as they essentially save them. Yeah, that's it.
I would like you to elaborate on that because I feel like you'll know more about it than me. The one that comes to mind for me is Moses, right?
Mhm.
Where the truth is revealed to him, the instructions are revealed to him, and he himself wants to reject it, right? So that's, I think, often the first rejection in biblical or Abrahamic stories. Are the first rejection is often from the one who receives it, and then maybe the people. But I know my understanding is a lot of these sort of heroes were initially terrified of the mission given to them, right? Like, my understanding is like Moses was absolutely terrified to go to the Pharaoh and tell him to, let them go, right? Even though we think that he was like yelling at the Pharaoh. I'm pretty sure it's believed that he actually stuttered and was like trembling and was terrified, right? Because he didn't want to be killed. Can you give examples? Because I'm not really familiar with the idea of the people rejecting the prophesied messages.
Well, Abraham was, when he gave the message, after he asked for proof from God, that he is the creator of life and death. After he found that out, which he initially was very skeptical of, he went to tell the people who were idol worshippers, pagans, and they actually tried to burn him in a fire. So that's the first one where they tried to kill him. You can think of Jesus. Jesus was also staunchly opposed, by the current Jewish population during that time. In fact, they wanted to kill him. Like, they were very openly wanting to kill him, even though we don't know of any harm that he was actually doing other than trying to save them, and bring them back to the path that was, I guess, correct. You can talk about the Prophet Muhammad, who was essentially, like, even at a small group, they were constantly being hunted, for a very long time. I mean, it's kind of one of the miracles that they even survived, because there was such a small group of them and such a large population out to get them. I mean, that's just a few. You can think of all the other prophets, especially during the Jewish period. A lot of them were killed, because they were telling people that they were no longer following the scriptures as they should be, and they were sent as reminders, but they were killed. Those are just like a few examples, I guess. I'm not gonna bore you, but yeah, like it seems like a very common theme.
Thank you for that. Does anyone have anything to add?
Yeah, I think even like in personal life, like I know certain classes that I take, especially the humanities classes. There's like a newfound truth in a lot of them, and like a lot of them, I know my initial reaction is kind of like I get defensive, right? For example, like my men and masculinities class, excuse me, I find out a lot of information in the class that originally, like, a lot of the times I tense up, right, or I get very defensive towards it, and I start to kind of reject the ideas, and I'm like, no, it can't be this way, or something, and then I have to allow myself to kind of take a deep breath and really let myself process it and come to terms with it and think about it and mull it over.
Olivier, I'm loving this. Can you give me an example? Or examples?
Yeah.
Can I quickly say I highly agree. Like I was like that a lot in my first 2 years of university, where it was like everything that made me uncomfortable, right? In those regards, like I was very like passionately trying to refute, which was a really good approach instead of just accepting it. Like trying to passionately go against it is really good. And even if you come to terms where you like slightly disagree or whatever, like that's fine as long as you've got like a logical reason to do so, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways,
like I think one of the examples, I have to leave after this actually, but one of the examples recently was I was reading an article where pretty much the entire thing I was reading, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like how they're portraying masculinity. Basically, it seemed like the article was saying that masculinity as a whole is just bad, and there's no such thing as like basically like a positive type of masculinity or like or different things like this. And I was pretty much like rejecting the article the entire time. I was like, how can this be so if I personally am feeling this way or have these views towards this or I'm actively trying to do this or whatever. And then I still don't know where I stand in terms of it, but I think that by the end of the article and throughout, I was like trying to just let myself be like, Olivier, take a step back, just read it. You don't have to accept or reject right now, and you can try to kind of just take it in and then think about it. And I think that's still the process that I'm going through with a lot of things in life.
Yeah, I like the approach of trying to like actively listen. I will say that does sound like really extreme, like whatever that author was saying. Like I mean, now I'm sounding
Can
like
you
a cave.
stand it?
I'm sounding like a cave person, but it's hard not to be like immediately reject that because it does sound pretty crazy. But I've noticed a lot in social topics, things do sound crazy, right? Like they often sound crazy. And you often just need to give them a chance and see what you think about particular topics without strawmanning them. So